What is good, Tesla family? It's Ray J back with another video. And this one wants to break down what's going on with Tesla stock and break down the very important ranges on Tesla, SPY, the QQQ, and a couple of other tickers. I'm going to break down some very important things for next week and what's going on with the news affecting Tesla. Before I break anything down, this very quick update video, let me just mention a couple of things. Firstly, I am not a financial planner, so take nothing I say as financial advice. And also, if you guys can, please check out the Moomoo link, which is down below and in the description. If you sign up for Moomoo and deposit $100 into the account, you are guaranteed up to 5 free stocks. If you deposit $1,000, you're guaranteed up to 15 free stocks, and this offer ends very, very soon in just a couple of weeks. Anyways, when it comes to Tesla, I want to call this out. Tesla is currently down about 0.18% for the day. It's also dropping a tiny bit in the after hours, but overall, it's still very close to where we were. Tesla's in a range just like SPY and the QQQ and Apple, but Nvda is one of the other stocks that's starting to outperform. But I want to break down more details about the market first before I talk about the charts. So, real quick, as a reminder for next week, most of the data is very minor from inflationary expectations to some Fed speakers. It's very, very minor for next week, but there is one exception. On Thursday, January 11th, we have CPI coming out. This is going to be very, very important. We're expecting an increase in CPI, a slight increase, and a slight decrease in core CPI. It's going to be very important. Make sure you watch this very carefully. That's it for next week. Everything else is just kind of minor. We also have PPI for Friday, but we'll be watching to see how this affects the volatility moving forward. Now, when it comes to SPY, I just want to mention that SPY goes just under max pain. So there's still some potential for it to test 468, especially going into next week. We had a 1.00 puts to call ratio, almost the exact amount of puts and calls, basically expiring today. And that's why we closed very close to max pain. That was very advantageous for those market makers. SPY closed just right there as it pumped at the very last few minutes. Now, when it comes to Tesla, we had some interesting news. As a reminder, this news is coming out that Tesla's recalling 1.6 plus million cars in China over problems with the autopilot locks. Now, this is very misleading. Do not fall for these articles immediately, excuse me, guys, because according to the reports, look what it says in small letters. The problems could be fixed through an over-the-air software update. I find this very comical. I find this hilarious. The fact that they're calling this a massive recall for 1.6 million vehicles, even though all it takes is just a software update to fix it. So it's very different. Tesla's very different from other companies out there. This is not a conventional recall, so do not let this piece of news trick you and fool you. These mainstream articles just want to get those headlines, get those clicks out there. Don't just fall for the headlines, always look at the details. Now, we have some negative news, at least somewhat negative news if you want to kind of go that route for Tesla. Tesla has lowered the Model Y, S, and X ranges, the estimations for them following exaggeration complaints. And we also saw some tests being done, which led to this as well. The DOJ was also investigating this. They opened a probe into these claims, but Tesla doesn't. They haven't really given us a real reason as to why this happened quite yet at the time of recording this. But you have to remember that this is very minor. So they basically took down the overall ranges by about 18 to 20 miles. So very, very small changes, not that crazy. The Model Y long range is down to 310 miles from 330, while the X Plaid dropped from 333 from 333 to 326. There we go, guys. So that's very important. Just small little changes, 6% decreases in the ranges. Not that massive, guys. I don't think this is the end of the world. But this is a little negative technically because, once again, the way in which Tesla reports its ranges and the estimations could be very different from how it's tested. So one reason for this could be because of how the battery could be going through more shocks in different terrains, different environments. So, of course, the ranges are going to be different depending on who's driving and where you're driving, the speed at which you're going, and all these different factors. It is possible Tesla found one of the most efficient ways to drive a Tesla, and they, came up with the range through that. That's one possibility. It's also possible that it was just an honest mistake, or it could be that the cars are capable of meeting all the ranges that they've listed, but it depends on how you're driving the Tesla, right? There's so many different factors out there. Depends on the terrain, the environment, all these different things. So for that reason, I don't really want to hate on Tesla for this or just make the claim that Tesla's a bad company. They're exaggerating, they're lying. I wouldn't necessarily say that, but because they have to have lowered them by just some small amounts. This is something that's a little negative for them, but not the end of the world, right? It was only 18 to 20 miles, so 6% range decrease, not that massive. So I'm not too upset or anything like that. Once again, Tesla is being accused of just exaggerating, lying. This is leading to like more contentious claims, more criticism for Tesla, which is completely fine. The ranges are still very similar to this in real life, and I'm not going to let this really change my view of the company's long term. So this is just like a big piece of news. This is making all the headlines. For now, don't let this really scare you. It's just a small little decrease in the range. And overall, we'll just see what happens to Tesla as well. But that's it for the main pieces of news right now, at least for Tesla in the markets. Let me just briefly go over the charts. Unfortunately, guys, Tesla is still in this range. So I called out what would happen today very closely. I told you that Tesla's going to likely remain within this range for the majority of the day, but there's going to be a moment where Tesla kisses 234, meaning it touches it and bounces back up. That's what I predicted yesterday, and that's what played out for today. Right? Tesla basically came down to 234. It bounced off of that, and it's been stuck within the range since. The reason why this is significant is because when you look at the daily time frame, on the daily, we have the 200 EMA at 234, right? That's very, very important. That's the support holding Tesla up. So it's very simple. Tesla has key support at 234 to 236. When we hit those levels, we tend to see some buyers step in. We have resistance at 240 to 242 from yesterday. It's been stuck within this range for almost 3 straight days, or basically 3 straight days of just consolidation. So with that being said, I mean, we're just going to be watching to see how Tesla does. It's been stuck within this range, going back and forth and back and forth. So I think it's going to likely continue to do so, and we'll be watching to see which way it breaks. If we close below 234, there's going to be a risk of more downside. If we close above 242, there's going to be a risk of more upside. We'll have to watch the range just to be safe. On SPY, we have the same range. We're basically stuck at 465 as support to about 460, just under 467. We have resistance at 470 to 471. Back and forth and back and forth for almost 3 straight days. If you just look at this, it's been stuck just over 471 is resistance, 471 rejection, drop down to 465 in the pre-market, then back up to 471, back and forth, might continue to do so until we break direction. If we could close above 471, there's going to be more bullish potential. If we close below 467, we could start sinking back down to 465 or so, and then start sinking lower. For now, we're just range bound on SPY. Same thing on the QQQ, very boring stuff, guys. I mean, what is this, like 3 days? The QQQ was kind of stuck. We hit 400, we came down. We actually touched 396, 400. Then we came back down to 395, back to almost 400, and then back down. So we're going back and forth and back and forth. The QQQ also has 393 as a critical support, I believe, on the daily time frame, either the daily or the 4 hour. I think it's the 4 hour time from the 200 EMAs at 393. That has been our support, and that's kind of like holding the QQQ up. So 393 to 395 is key support for the triple Q. We tend to see buyers step in and defend it right there. We have resistance at around 400 to 399. We've been going back and forth and back and forth. We'll see if it breaks. We also have this blue trend line acting as resistance. So to be bullish, you want to see this thing break above 400 and push to 402 plus. If you're bearish, you want to see it lose 393 and close below that. Until then, we're just stuck going back and forth and back and forth. Apple, it's no different. Back and forth and back and forth again. Resistance is going to be at 182.5 to 183. Support is going to be between 180 and 181. Now, what's interesting about Apple is about 3 days ago, Apple was just going back and forth between 183.5 to 185, back and forth and back and forth. Then 2 days ago, it actually came down lower, and the range basically just got lowered. It's still range bound, but it just went down a little bit more. So now it's just going back and forth and back and forth. It's basically stuck. If it loses 180, closes below that, watch for 178. If it breaks above 183.5, watch for a push to about 184.25 to 185. Otherwise, it's just back and forth and back and forth price action. Apple is still stuck. It might continue to do so until we finally make a move. But finally, lo and behold, our savior, Nvda. This is actually more exciting compared to everything else because we had this nice channel. We got a nice breakout above this 483 resistance. And now we're testing this blue trend line right here. This blue trend line was our previous support. If I go back like this, you can see this blue trend line was our support on Nvidia. If I zoom out all the way like this, you guys can see The blue trend line was previous support, which is now becoming resistance. So to zoom in, it's very simple, guys. We had this flag that was forming. We have a nice inverse head and shoulders like structure. I can even delete this. I want to keep this for now in case we go back into it. We're kind of stuck at support at 490. We also have resistance at 495. We've been going back and forth and back and forth. Watch to see if we can break this trend line right here. If we break this, we're going to be looking for a push for 498 to 500. Overall, the structure looks bullish. It looks bullish overall, making higher highs and higher lows and holding up nicely. We're looking decent, but we'll have to see if Nvidia could try to hold around this range. Overall, not bad whatsoever. Nvidia is looking quite decent. We'll see if this could try to hold up. Going to be looking to see a backtest of 495 to see if it can try to hold above this. As of right now, I could see it at least trying to test that. But that's pretty much it for Nvidia. That's it for the market for now. I'll be giving you guys another update over the weekend to talk about the long term for the markets. I'm going to be talking more about a more in-depth analysis of the technicals, especially going into Sunday. So I'll be back on Sunday, guys, to talk more about the charts. But until then, please take care, do what you have to do, and I'll see you guys very soon. Thank you so much for listening, guys. I appreciate every single one of you. Tesla to the moon because the long term is still very bright alongside for the whole market, or at least a large majority of stocks out there. And I'll see you guys very soon in the next video that's coming up. Thank you and peace out.